What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we will be discussing monuments from all around the world from different time periods, from medieval times to ancient times to modern times. So all of this in no particular order, let's get on with the list. So we will start off with the only ancient monument that is still in existence nowadays, being the ancient pyramids of Giza, built in 2560 BC. Initially being as tall as around 481 feet tall, over time the pyramids had had their limestone casting removed, which had dramatically reduced their height over time, for which the current height of the pyramids are now 454 feet tall. The base of the pyramid is measured to be about 330 meters wide, and it is said by scientists to be way too large to be crushed by either man or acts of nature. It was built by an estimate of 2.3 million large blocks, weighing in at about 6 million tons in total. The pyramid served as a tomb for Pharaoh Khufu, who ruled the 4th dynasty of the Old Kingdom that was built in the 26th century BC. The pyramids of Giza are the oldest of the 7 ancient wonders of the ancient world. Next on our list is the Great Wall of China, built in the 7th century BC. Now, when we hear about the Great Wall of China, conventionally we would all think that it was only built for military defense purposes, and while that certainly is one of its functions when it was first built, in recent years it has been used for other purposes as well, such as border patrol, immigration, along with the other transportation of goods and services across China. A lot of different estimates as to how long it is range from 1,500 miles up to 5,000 miles. Now on to Stonehenge. Stonehenge is a prehistoric monument in England, 2 miles west of Amesbury. Widely regarded as the most famous landmark in all the UK, it has been legally protected since 1882 and was built in the year 3000 BC. This monument could have been a burial ground from its early beginnings in 3000 BC when the ditch and bank were first dug, and continued for at least another 500 years. Next up, the Roman Colosseum, built in 70 AD. It's made out of travertine limestone, compressed volcanic ash, and brick-faced concrete. At various points in its history, it can hold as many as 50,000 to 80,000 spectators. Due to earthquakes that have happened all throughout the centuries, it had undergone a lot of damage, but it is still with us nowadays, and it had been used for gladiatorial combats of the most brutal kinds, from human on human to human on animals to animals tearing apart civilians who have done horrible things, you name it. So it was thought to be the go-to torture centre throughout the whole empire. Okay, next up on our list is Easter Island, which is believed to have existed since 300 to 1200 CE. A special touristy destination of Chile in the southeastern Pacific Ocean. Chile's government has controlled the land since 1888. The island is most famous for its 1,000 statues known as the moai, which are made from a compressed volcanic ash, or tuff for short. Many experts disagree as to when the island's first Polynesian inhabitants had reached the island, yet the most common consensus is that they arrived on the island at around 800 AD. The stone moai were believed by the indigenous people to be the guardians or the protectors of the people on the island. As you see some of the statues facing out towards the sea, watching out for danger, and you see some facing inwards, keeping an eye on the people. But there's at least one statue there, which is the only one to be found in a kneeling position, which is meant to have represented a singer in their culture of some sort. Based on what researchers have found, there were 2 main reasons why the population died out. Number 1, European settlers had brought a bunch of diseases with them in the colonial age. Number 2, they had trashed their natural environment so much to the point where there was famine, cannibalism, and a downward spiral of tribal warfare, along with a growing population of rats on the island. Yet to this day, it remains to be one of the most majestic touristy hotspots on the entire planet. Now on to the ancient city of Angkor, which was built in Cambodia in the 9th century. It is said to be the largest pre-industrial city in the entire world that still exists to its day. Yet at its height, it only had a population of about 500,000 people, yet from an infrastructure point of view, it was 5 times the size as modern-day New York. Angkor was the capital city of the Khmer Empire, which had governed most of Southeast Asia except for Vietnam and even pushed into southern China. That was at the very peak of the empire's history. Now onto the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, which is the only one on the list that is not confirmed to have even existed. It was said to have been built in the ancient city of Babylon in a province in Iraq, only that has not been fully confirmed. According to legend, the Hanging Gardens were built alongside a grand palace known as the Marvel of Mankind, which was ruled by the Neo-Babylonian king who had ruled from 605 BC to 562 BC. Now onto the statue of Zeus, built in 430 BC. A seated figure at Olympia, standing at about 12.4 meters tall, it was made up of ivory plates and golden panels made on a wooden framework. The statue was unfortunately lost and destroyed before the end of the 5th century AD. A lot of historians argue as to why. Hagia Sophia, built in the year 537 AD. It is currently a Muslim mosque in modern-day Turkey. However, this was not always the case, because the Ottoman Empire had taken over this once Christian church in the 1400s. Before that, it was part of the Byzantine Empire, which is the eastern half of the once fully united Roman Empire. And their religion was Christianity, which was put in place by the last emperor of the fully unified Roman Empire, Emperor Constantine. The Porcelain Tower of Nanjing. It had began construction in the early 15th century, however by the late 19th century it had been destroyed by a group of rebellions. But thankfully in recent years a modern one was built to replace it to make up for the one that was destroyed during the Ming Dynasty. The Catacombs of Kamal Shaukufa, built in the 2nd century AD. If you were to explore this great historical site nowadays, what you would find is a bunch of dishes and cutlery all made of clay that are all broken up into tiny pieces. Because the first people to explore these catacombs took with them a bunch of food and wine for recreational purposes and to feed themselves as well. But afterwards, when they went back, they didn't bother taking their dishes with them, so they just chucked them on the ground and smashed them there. So when it was discovered by archaeologists centuries later, they found a lot of these plates and dishes just lying around, and had been there this whole time. The Lighthouse of Alexandria, built in 3rd century BC. At its height it stood at 100 meters tall, but over the course of centuries from 956 to 323 AD, it had undergone damage from numerous earthquakes, leaving pieces of it at the bottom of the sea floor. But then, as recently as 1994, French archaeologists have found pieces of that old lighthouse at the bottom of the sea floor. The Colossus of Rhodes, built in 292 to 280 BC. The Colossus of Rhodes was an old Greek statue that was said to be the same exact height as the Statue of Liberty in modern-day America, but sadly there was a great earthquake which led to the statue's collapse. Pieces of it were recovered, but they'd never planned on rebuilding it. Ever since 2008, there has been constant proposals about rebuilding it, but the known location of the statue's whereabouts when it was built is still in dispute today. The Temple of Artemis was built in 550 BC. The great size of over 350 by 180 foot high. The magnificent work of art was abandoned after a while and was then later destroyed by invading bandits, and it was never rebuilt. The Leaning Tower of Pisa, built in 1173. From the ground up on the low side, it stands at 183 feet and 3 inches tall. On the high side, it stands at 185 feet and 11 inches tall. Due to soft ground which could not properly support the whole structure's weight, the problem got even worse as it got taller over a 200-year period. The Zuiderzee Works in 1920s and the Delta Works in the 1950s. The Delta Works is a series of construction projects, dams, sloughs, locks, dikes, levees and storm surge barriers in the southwest part of the Netherlands to shorten the Dutch coastline. The Empire State Building, 1931. It stands at 1,454 feet tall. Now, it's no secret that this building was the main inspiration for the movie King Kong, obviously. For the first 40 years of its existence, it has been the tallest building ever since until the World Trade Center was built, being completed in 1972. Now, the reason it was called the Empire State Building is because it's derived from the nickname that they gave New York, being the Empire State of America. The Itapai Dam in Brazil, 1984. It's a hydraulic dam that occupies about 1,350 kilometers of space and it is approximately 196 meters. Construction took about 18 years and that's exactly how many billions of dollars it took to build the thing. The Golden Gate Bridge, built in San Francisco, California. It is 746 feet long and is maintained by civil engineers and painters every 12 to 18 years. And further installments are being put in place, suicide nets, because it's a very common place where people go to end their lives. So that's another measure that's going to be put in place shortly. It cost $35 million to build. The CN Tower, built in 1973. It stands at a whopping 1,815 feet tall. In Toronto, Canada, it had held the record for world's tallest structure for 32 years, and it is currently used as the main radio and broadcast tower in Toronto, and it cost $63 million to build. The Channel Tunnel opened in 1994. It is an underwater train tunnel and it is 246 feet below sea. It is designed for high-speed trains and it is 50 kilometers long. And please, do yourself a favor, don't get any funny ideas about driving your car through it. It's not meant to work like that. The construction cost was $21 billion. The Panama Canal, built in 1914. It is an artificial waterway about 82 kilometers long that connects directly to the Atlantic Ocean. The United States of America had contributed about $375 million to help pay for the thing to be built, and sadly there was about 5,600 workers who had tragically lost their lives when it was being built. Thank you all so much for watching. Please like and subscribe and hit the bell notification so you never miss a new video. Thank you, I'm signing off.